Please be seated. On behalf of the class of 2024, I would like to welcome you to the 28th commencement exercises of Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology. Today, we celebrate a very special milestone in the lives of 88 young people. Because so many of you have been such an important part of our lives for so long, we are especially happy that you could share this time with us. This is a joyous occasion for the class of 2024, and we want it to be a dignified one. Therefore, we request that you remain seated throughout the ceremony. In order for you to be able to relax and enjoy the ceremony, a professional photographer will take pictures of the graduates as they receive their diplomas. Please turn off or silence all mobile devices and alarms. We ask that you refrain from outbursts, especially during the presentation of the diplomas. These requests will ensure that all of the graduates' names can be heard when they are called. This ceremony is being broadcast live. Thank you for your cooperation in making this evening a memorable event.
It gives us great pleasure to introduce our distinguished guests. With us today are the following members of the Darlington County Board of Education. Ms. Leanne Kelly, Board Vice Chair, Mrs. Audrey Gore, Mr. Charles Govan, Board Secretary, Mrs. Wanda Hassler, Board Chair, Mrs. Amanda Thompson, and Mr. Warren Jeffords. Also present from our school district are Dr. Tim Newman, Superintendent of Darlington County School District, Mrs. Carlita King, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, Mr. Chuck Miller, Executive Director of Human Resources, and Mr. Eddie Schuler, Executive Director of Administration and Operations. Because of our magnet status as Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology, our students can also attend the Darlington County Institute of Technology and participate in band, cheer, and athletic organizations at their originally zoned schools. We would like to recognize a few staff members from these schools who are in attendance. Bert Sandifer, Kate Instructor and National Technical Honor Society Advisor at Darlington Institute of Technology, and from Darlington High School, Jamie Johnson, Head Football Coach, Brandon Johnson, Director of Bands, Jamie Norris, Athletic Director, Justin Means, Student Support Mentor, and Bradley Knox, Assistant Athletic Director.
We would also like to recognize the following members of the Mayo family. Mrs. Danielle Watkins, our school counselor, Ms. Dawn Taylor, Assistant Principal, who will call all the seniors forward to receive their diplomas, Ms. Stefania Lennard, Principal for Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology. Next, we would like to recognize the following senior academic advisors: Mr. Joshua Barkus, Ms. Stacy Duke, Mrs. Nancy Fletcher, Mr. Antonio Jones, Ms. Anita Langston, Ms. Lane Smith, and the 2023 to 2024 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Gina Benjamin. We also have two special guests who have supported Mayo throughout the years: State Representative Robert Williams and retired faculty member Jay Flowers.
Please stand for the prayer and remain standing for the pledge. Dear God, we have come today to celebrate and acknowledge the achievements, triumphs, and realizations of these 88 students in the class of 2024. We have each accomplished 12 years of schooling, guided by our teachers, parents, and friends, learning along the way how to stand independently on our own 2 feet. For that lesson, we would like to thank you today for our friends, whose laughter and encouragement filled our years with memories. Our parents, who have picked us up and dusted us off every time we have stumbled. And finally, teachers, who have inspired our desire for knowledge and set the paths each of us is inspired to take. And as we head down these paths, let us also pray for your guidance, so that we may each realize our dreams as well as our hopes, beginning our own course with assurance of a bright future. Amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Good evening, class of 2024, family members, and friends. Before I begin, I would like to thank my family, my fellow classmates, and my teachers for making this journey possible. Without you, I would not be able to give this speech today. As I was preparing for this speech, I stumbled upon a video entitled "The Valedictorian Speech That Will Change Your Life." This video included a speech made by Carl Aquino, who is the valedictorian of his class in 2010. His remarks and allusions may be dated, but I believe they apply well to the class of 2024's high school experience. He described high school as a Rubik's Cube, freshman year as a puzzle that is scrambled and unsolvable for most. As he progressed through the years of high school, he turned the Rubik's Cube with each preceding year, and by the end of the speech, he had solved the Rubik's Cube. I believe that this is an accurate representation of our high school careers. Entering high school during COVID, all of us were confused about this new thing called high school. We were scrambled and set apart by our face mask and our desk dividers. No one knew what to do, how to act. We were all in an awkward stage where we knew each other but had lost our ability to socialize face to face. Nevertheless, we adapted and found a way to make the best of this year. Our sophomore year was a little better. We had solved some parts of our high school puzzle, but we had still not gotten it back into the normal flow of school. We still started under COVID precautions. However, we were able to experience our first back-to-school bash, fall festival, Earth Day, field day, and other great activities that make Mayo special. Sophomore year was one of growth, both personally and academically. We all remember Ms. Becker's 5 golden minutes or the challenging rigor of Mr. Flowers' class. But remember, while most of my fellow classmates and I did not enjoy the rigor of these classes at the time, I now realize the important lessons of time management, discipline, and sacrifice that we learned through these classes. In my opinion, junior year for us was one of the best years. We were all able to take a step forward to academic excellence with our college courses, AP exams, and other high-level courses. Yes, ACT, SAT, WIN, and other high-intensity tests were in our way, but we prevailed with flying colors. I'm truly proud of all my classmates for becoming college and career ready and slowly coming close to solving our high school Rubik's Cube. Finally, we come to senior year, the year filled with senioritis, late nights, and memories that will last us a lifetime. From senior sunrise to college signing day, we bonded and came together as a community of students who care for each other. I'm delighted to see how all of us have exceeded expectations for our academic journeys. As we walk across this stage tonight, we will have finally completed our high school puzzle. Our hard work truly defines the culture of excellence we have built here at Mayo. Without the skills we've learned here, none of us would make it to the stage we will today to walk across with such high prestige. In the wise words of Dr. Wallace and Ms. Lennard, hard work pays off because we define excellence here at Mayo. As the class of 2024, we have surely reaped what we have sown. We are record breakers, leaders, voice state governors, merit scholars, and academic weapons. We truly have soared high. As our school journey comes to an end and we go off to college, the military, and new careers, I encourage everyone to pick up a new Rubik's Cube and begin to solve it. Thank you.
Good evening. The state of South Carolina recognizes exceptional academic accomplishments by awarding the South Carolina Academic Honors Award to students who meet the following criteria: completion of 24 units of credit as prescribed, earning a minimum grade of B for each semester course in grades 9 through 12 for the first 7 semesters, and earn a combined score on the SAT of 1,400 or more, or the equivalent of 31 or greater on the ACT. This evening, we are pleased to recognize 4 students who achieved this honor. Will you please stand when I call your name? Dakota Brooks, Atticus Brown, Thomas Hotwood, and Isabella LaFew. Thank you. In 2016, Darlington County Schools and Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology partnered with the Governor's School for Science and Mathematics. The partnership was to offer an excellent, unique, transformative engineering program called Accelerate. Accelerate provides students with an integrated set of courses that are aligned with the first year of a college general engineering program. On Saturday, May 18th, 2024, the Governor's School for Science and Math celebrated the class of 2024 at the Presswood Country Club in Hartsville, South Carolina. We are proud to recognize the following Accelerate completers. The students' engineering research projects are also noted in your graduation program tonight. When your names are called, if you would, please stand. They are Chad Bacote II, Dakota Brooks, Torian Davis, and William DeWitt. Our school's mission statement is to achieve excellence through a challenging curriculum with high expectations in a safe, positive environment to develop future leaders. Our students understand that leadership is service. This year, I would like to recognize the senior with the highest combined total of service hours for both Beta and National Honor Society. Abby Patterson, would you please stand? Abby amassed 233 total hours. As well, I am pleased to announce tonight that this class has been offered in excess of $19.8 million in scholarships. That's proof positive that hard work pays off. As you see on the program, these graduates plan to attend colleges and universities where I am sure they will represent us well. Parents, relatives, distinguished guests, and friends, we have arrived at the highlight of this occasion, which is the awarding of the diplomas to the class of 2024. Senior academic advisors, please join us on the stage.
The following students have earned an overall GPA of 4.5 or higher by the end of the 8th semester and are recognized this evening with the highest honor as Darlington County Board of Education Scholars. Please come forward to receive your diploma as I call your name. Hannah Doree Amerson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Scott Amerson. Dakota Scott Brooks, son of Mr. and Mrs. Billy Brooks. Atticus Gilpin Brown, son of Mr. and Mrs. Gordon Brown. Salutatorian, Abby Lynn Chapman, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Chance Chapman. Richard Edward Connor III, son of Mr. and Mrs. Richard Connor, Jr. Pearl Susan Dapperpoo, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. N.L. Dapperpoo. Torian Maurice Davis and Mr. Torrey Davis. Chandria Denise Enoch and Mr. Sean Enoch. Grace Nicole Ford, daughter of Miss Rebecca Ford and the late Mr. Tony Ford. Kayla Gabrielle Goss, daughter of Miss Lynette Goss and Mr. Todd Jones. Grace Anna Mackenzie Grant, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Adam Grant. Gabriella Reese Hayes, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ira Hicks and Mr. Frank Hayes. Hayden Ryan Hendricks, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ryan Hendricks. Thomas Kenneth Hopwood, son of Miss Kimberly Hopwood and Mr. Neil Hopwood. Seth Gavin Isgett, son of Miss Tanya Isgett and the late Mr. John Isgett. Alexis Marie Jetson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Chris Jetson. Amanda Marie Johnson, daughter of Ms. Janice Johnson. Emily Grace Johnson, daughter of Mr. Chris Johnson and the late Mrs. April Johnson. Samuel Porter Johnson, son of Mr. and Mrs. Paul Johnson. Emily Grace Jones, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Jones. Jacob Edwin Kiker, son of Mr. and Mrs. Chris Kiker. Valedictorian Curtis Ryan Lear, son of Mr. and Mrs. Brad Lear. Isabella Rose LeFew, daughter of Miss Lenora Eason LePew and Mr. Ken LePew. Pamela Honesty Marie Moses, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Moses. Dina Nicole O'Neill, daughter of the late Miss Ashley O'Neill and Mr. Larry O'Neill. Abigail Susan Leanne Patterson, daughter of Mr. Jason Patterson. Tierra Jada Nicole Patterson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Tony Patterson. Madison Grace Riggins, daughter of Miss Jennifer Cooper and Mr. Danny Riggins. Natalie Charlize Scott, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Raphael Scott. Cooper Blaze Stafford, son of Mr. and Mrs. Scott Ard and Mr. Jerry Stafford. Laura Catherine Thompson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. T. Thompson. Reed Parnell Turner, son of Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Turner. Autumn Brooke Wall, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Andy Wall. Michaela Tylee Watford, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Steve Ellison and Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell Watford. Congratulations to the Darlington County School District Board of Education Scholars. The next group of students have earned an overall GPA of 4.25 to 4.49 by the end of the 8th semester and are recognized as Darlington County Honor Graduates. Please come forward to receive your diploma as I call your name. Chloe Mackenzie Aldridge, daughter of Miss April Bean and Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Aldridge. Stella Grace Reynolds Allen, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Michael Allen. Chad Christopher Bacote II, son of Mr. Chad Bacote Sr. and the late Ms. Ingrid Wiley. Barrett Anthony Face, son of Mr. and Mrs. Mark Face. Patrick Joseph Flaherty, son of Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Flaherty. Jalasia Malay Hudson, daughter of Miss Tabitha Lyde. Justice Denise Jackson, daughter of Miss Pamela Burns and Mr. Brian Jackson. Samya Sharab Patel, son of Mr. and Mrs. Sharab Patel. Trinity Grace Robinson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. David Robinson. Kennedy Amaya Stanton, daughter of Miss Demetris Pronis and Mr. Calvin Stanton Sr. Congratulations, honors graduates. The next group of graduates will be earning their South Carolina diploma tonight. Please come forward as I call your name. Micah Braden Allen, son of the Reverend and Mrs. Adrian Allen. Pascual Emilio Todd Blanco, son of Miss Lisa Ann Todd and Mr. Emilio Blanco. Keaton Walker Braddock, son of Miss Pamela Braddock and Mr. Dwayne Braddock. Olivia Marilyn Burrows, daughter of Miss Patricia Matthews. Matthew Warren Butler, son of Mr. and Mrs. William Butler. Johnny Schuyler Chisholm, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Johnny Chisholm. Sawyer Dane Cromer, son of Mr. and Mrs. Matt Haney and the late Mr. Stacy Cromer. William Samuel DeWitt, son of Miss Dory DeWitt. Ella Grace Diven, daughter of Miss Rosie Goanichi and Mr. Jonathan Diven. Amaya Shalon Dufford Boyd, daughter of Miss Kiera Dufford and Mr. Jerry Boyd. Kimaya Jamisha Edie, daughter of Miss Lakia Edie and Mr. Antoine Edie. Xavius Wisey Easterling, son of Miss Angela Easterling. Samuel Noah Arise, son of Mr. and Mrs. Caesar Arise. Yasmin Rita Elaine Faison, daughter of Miss Shalika McKithen and Mr. Kenneth Faison. Xander Angelo Grant, son of Mr. and Mrs. Aaron Grant. Cameron Emily Gregg, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Gregg. Nolan Wiley Hoffman, son of Mr. and Mrs. Danny Hoffman. George Andrew Holliday, son of Miss Sherry Holliday. Jordan Amani Holloman, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ronnie Holloman. Kaylee Dawn Holloway, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Charlie Holloway. Ethan Ryan Howell, son of Mr. and Mrs. J. Ryan Howell. William Austin Howell, son of Mr. and Mrs. Russell Howell. Sydney Anna Owl, daughter of Mr. Clint Owl and the late Miss Candace Owl. Sierra Nicole James, daughter of Miss Ashley James and Mr. Michael James. Walker Christopher Johnson, son of Mr. Chris Johnson and the late Miss April Johnson. Travis Alexander Kelly, son of Mr. and Mrs. Travis Kelly. Emily Linksavat, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Soradet Linksavat. Natalie Renee Matthews, daughter of Miss Christine Watkins. Lily Ray McBrayer, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Tony Little and Mr. and Mrs. Bryson McBrayer. Ellen Elizabeth McCaskill, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Philip McCaskill. Nathan Bailey McKenzie, son of Mr. and Mrs. Jeff McKenzie. Dylan Jacob Melton, son of Mr. and Mrs. Winston Melton. Emma Grace Ruth Morgan, daughter of Miss Wendy Sweat and Mr. Thomas Morgan. Sydney Camille Morgan, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Benny Morgan. Mia Bella Mosby, daughter of Miss Kate Mosby and Mr. Eric Mosby. Preston Quinn Nutter, son of Miss Donna Nutter and Mr. Greg Nutter. Nevaeh Lanaya Robinson, daughter of Miss Latanya Robinson and Mr. Kenny Hickson. Ryan Nicholas Rose, son of Mr. and Mrs. Tom Rose. Jody Anthony Rouse, son of Miss Eva Rouse and Mr. Joseph Rouse. Joseph William Spears, son of Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Maloney and Mr. and Mrs. Jason Spears. Caroline Bryson Suggs, daughter of Miss Kim Suggs and Mr. McKeever Suggs. Xavius DeCarlo Tedder, son of Miss Lavitria Ings and Mr. DeCarlo Tedder. Hunter Andrew Watford, son of Mr. and Mrs. Andy Watford. Antoine Tyreek Williamson, son of Miss Yvonne Williamson Robinson and the late Mr. Diego Robinson. Congratulations, graduates. And upon the recommendation of the faculty and administration of Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology.
Successfully completed the required course of studies as set forth by the state of South Carolina. Let's try it again. This part is where I actually confer the diploma. It's important. Having successfully completed the required course of studies as set forth by the South Carolina State Department of Education to graduate with the required 24 units and successfully complete all of the high school assessments, and upon the recommendation of the faculty and administration, I hereby confer upon you the South Carolina High School Diploma with all its rights, honors, and privileges thereto appertaining. Candidates, you may now turn your tassels. You are now members of the Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology alumni. Please be seated. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize other Mayo High School Golden Bears and Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology graduates at this time. If you would, please stand. Of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Invictus by William Ernest Henley, written in 1875. Graduates, as you rise from the fiery phoenix nest, remember well the lessons learned in Mayo's halls. You are building your resume every day. Pride, that sense of personal dignity. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. It's a matter of pride. Phoenix pride. Honesty, the commitment to personal integrity and good character. Always carry yourself as a Mayo man or Mayo lady, because every day is Media Day. Family, remember that you belong to a rich family legacy, not found within the four walls of our school building, but in the bonds of the fellowship we share one with another. Remember to keep in touch. Service. Although you may not be earning accolades for your service hours, remember goodness is an investment that never fails. Fortitude. Hard work? All right. And when the road looks dim, when your obligations look overwhelming, when you are faced with adversity or seemingly insurmountable tasks, when you need to make tough decisions, when you need to be reminded of who you are and whose you are, when life is coming at you from every direction, I ask that you simply keep the main thing, and the main thing is your own personal brand of excellence. After all, we are Mayo. We define excellence. Graduates of the Mayo High School for Math, Science, and Technology, Class of 2024, please stand once again. At this time, feel free to toss your caps. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I will ask that you please rise at this time for the recessional. Please allow us to properly congratulate the graduates by allowing all of them, allow all of the graduates to exit before you do.